How's it? Welcome back. So here's a response to a comment I got recently from someone who had an established lucid dreaming practice, or I guess more specifically, I would say after reading this comment, more like a lucid dreaming technique that he had a lot of success with. But then as time carried on and he kept trying to do what was initially working for him at first, it eventually stopped working for him. And so he wanted to know if I had any tips on things that could help get him back on track. So here's what he wrote. He does point out that he's not a native speaker, but for the most part, you can tell what he was getting at. The truth is, I'm failing at lucid dreaming for more than 2 years straight, and that's pretty rough to hear. However, I wouldn't write this comment if there were no particular issues. Entering a dream while waking up never works on me. There were some spontaneous results, but it was always too hard to reach proper level of consciousness. Okay, so for that first part, I'm not entirely sure what he's getting at, right? Like entering a dream while waking up never works on me. So I take this kind of one of two ways. One is actually one of the main ways I tend to get lucid, where when the dream is starting to end and I see it breaking down essentially into hypnopompia, that's when I get clued into the fact that I'm dreaming. So like the whole vast extreme majority of the dream, not lucid, but then when I see it breaking down, I go, oh wait, I'm dreaming, and then that gives me a last minute opportunity to rebuild the dream back together and try to keep the dream going. Now, the big downside to that, though, is at that point, that's when your your sleep cycle is naturally wanting to end. So it's like a constant battle of trying to keep the dream together and push out this REM cycle longer and longer. Or the other thing that I think he might mean is like after you wake up in the morning, being able to fall back asleep and then, start dreaming from that point on. And I know for a lot of people, that's like their main lucid dreaming technique. These are for like the lucky people who can lounge around in bed all day and just keep sleeping and sleeping and sleeping and sleep for like, 10 hours, no problem. But for me, that shit don't work on me, right? Where I'm very good at initially going to sleep. So like lying down to go to sleep at night, taking a nap and things like that. I can sleep in those situations, very consistently, and I would consider pretty easily. But once it's my normal circadian rhythm wake up time and like the sun is up and it's like whatever 6 7 a.m., at that point I'm kind of screwed and have a really hard time falling back asleep. Now if I get up at like 4 in the morning or something like that, at that point it's pretty easy to fall back asleep for me. But if it's like my normal circadian rhythm wake up time, I find it very difficult. So if he also finds it difficult, then screw it, there's a lot of other ways to go about it. First year practice results were obtained mainly through random dream awareness, which I would take to mean like diodes or dream-induced lucid dreams, or actually diodes. Remember a while back, it was like we call wilds. So why do we call diodes and not diodes? Diodes just sounds too close to dildo and makes me want to laugh. Anyway, so I never tried any kind of meditation. So I guess at the time he wasn't messing with meditation. He was essentially doing a wild technique, and that's what he says here. But once I decided to do wild in the following way, I just stopped internal monologue while focusing on my respiration or his breathing, and oh my, there was it. This method gave me incredible results. Okay, now get this, man. His results were way off the charts. I was using it for 2 to 3 weeks, 2 times per 3 days with 100% success rate. So whatever. 2 to 3 weeks of 100% success rate with wilds is crazy, and that's setting that bar super duper high. But then it didn't keep working is the problem. So here's the problem: being on the peak of my practice led to reduction of average lucidity duration time. Okay, so I would take that to mean like maybe throughout these 2 to 3 weeks, he was still getting lucid incredibly often, but as time was going on, maybe those lucid dreams are just really short, right? So he's getting lucid, but then he immediately wakes up. Or he has a wild, he's lucid, but then he gets wrapped up in the narrative, loses his lucidity, and then just has a regular dream from that point onward. Or perhaps he was, lucid in the dream, but it was just very low levels of conscious awareness and didn't have much control over things like that. The point is, it wasn't working as good for him. So I decided to take a break for 5 to 7 days, but when I tried it again, it just stopped working. And so this whole taking a break thing is a pretty common recommendation that I've seen in a lot of books. I've given that recommendation myself, where Even if you're doing wilds or even just some of the regular, lucid dreaming practices like reality checks and things like that, if you're really going all out, investing a lot of your waking life hours into it, probably getting stuck with insomnia a lot, trying to go to sleep with all these different wild approaches, and so you're doing all this stuff and then say it doesn't work, right? And more often than not, on any given night, it's not going to work, right? Because even if you are getting lucid every single night, which would of course be a very hard thing to do, you're still extremely unlikely to be lucid in like every single dream, right? We have like whatever, 4 to 6 dreams a night. So, anytime you go to sleep, chances are you're not going to get lucid. But then say you put all this effort in, on this day, you spent the whole day thinking about lucid dreaming, you're doing reality checks all day, you're meditating all day, you're doing, everything you possibly can. Then you go to sleep, right? You don't get lucid that night. And then you wake up kind of disappointed in yourself. And maybe you have this kind of thought or expectation that this just not going to work. And you can essentially start to kind of like mind fuck yourself out of the experience. Right, so sometimes by saying that, you know what, screw it, I'm going to take a break. You can take some of that weight off of your shoulders, and then sometimes all of a sudden, boom, that lucid dream experience you've been wanting will just like fall into your lap. And I've had things like that happen to me over the years with my own personal practice where, say, I'm really trying to have a lucid dream, or I'm really trying to, check something off in my lucid dreaming to-do list that I've been trying to do for a long time, putting forth all this effort, but it's just not working. So I think, screw it, you know what? I'm not going to try tonight, whatever, who cares what happens. And then boom, I go to sleep that night, and then bam, I get that awesome lucid dreaming experience. So taking a break sometimes can help, but it doesn't always help. Apparently it didn't help him either. I strongly believed it's impossible to lose lucidity skill, like you will never forget how to ride a bicycle, but it's obvious now I was wrong. All that was said above has happened more than 2 years ago. I swear I tried everything I could at this point. Finally, here's the question. Is it true that you may lose lucid dream skill? Can you give any advice on how to return it? What would you recommend? All right, so when it comes to losing lucid dream skill, like I don't think you ever lose it, but it might not be as like peak or as like in shape as it would be if you were having a lot of lucid dreams. And so like for me, what will happen is, say if I'm going through a lucid dreaming dry spell, I haven't had a lucid dream in a while, and then bam, I just get a random lucid dream. Sometimes that random lucid dream will be like a super awesome, really good one, but more often than not, it's just a kind of average lucid dream. I'm like, oh, surprise, my dog's talking to me. What? That's weird. I'm dreaming. Okay, great. And then unless I'm like dream incubating ideas and stuff I want to do, I just end up defaulting to like what I've been doing since I'm a teenager and just explore the dream environment and have fun and pleasure seek, right? And so that will be like my default to it. But then if I start really getting into the groove and I'm, when I'm really firing on all cylinders, I'll be lucid dreaming like, 4 nights a week, pretty consistently. And sometimes on those nights I'll have like 2 to 3 lucid dreams sometimes on a night. And so when I'm lucid dreaming that much, I do tend to have my lucid dream skill kind of pick up a notch, right? And if nothing else, what that does is it gets me in the mindset of getting past just fun and pleasure seeking, right? I'll have more things in my mind. Oh, I wanted to, work on whatever skill, work on walking through a wall or something like that, work on teleporting, work on trying to find a specific dream character and do things like that. So I do think there is a kind of build up to it. You can get like this momentum going where when you are having lucid dreams more often, your skill can kind of step up a notch. But for the most part, I don't think you really lose your lucid dreaming skill in any major sense. Now, to really help you with your problem, I think one of the first things I would do is, if you are specifically focusing on wilds as your main lucid dreaming, technique, wilds are really hard to come by. That 2 to 3 week time period of you having essentially 100% success rate, that is super rare. And so I wouldn't focus on wilds. I would focus more on diodes, right? Dream induce lucid dreams and just try to get lucid that way. One of the main ways one of the main ways that helps me when I really want to get back into my dream work game is I really have to drastically increase my dream recall, right? And so there's a bunch of different ways to do that. One of the simplest ways I like to do it is you can set, alarms to go off throughout the night, get however crazy with it that you want. But every time your alarm goes off, keep it right next to you in bed so you can get to it really quickly. Turn that off, and then every time you wake up, specifically just start committing dreams to memory, to dream journal in the morning, right? So turn it off, think about whatever dream it is you were coming out of, or if you remember dreams from earlier in the night before you just waking up, replay those in your head as you're falling asleep. And then this actually is a very good way to have a wild as well, because as you're replaying the dream, right, sometimes if you fall asleep quickly, you'll just basically fall right back in to the exact same dream. And then you can kind of, continue the same dream that you were just coming out of with that particular approach. So I would stick with that. Try to get your dream recall up. And then don't focus so much specifically on the wilds. If a wild comes, that's great. But do your reality checks throughout the day. You can set an alarm on your phone to go off throughout the day just to remind you to do your reality checks. A meditation practice would probably be a good thing to start if we haven't already started it, because lucid dreaming essentially is a meditation, right? You got to find this one particular point of view, such as you being consciously aware, keep that one step removal from the dream and the dream narrative, and keep that perspective to stay in the dream and stay lucid. So lucid dreaming is meditation, so a waking life meditation practice of whatever form it is you want to do. If you want a recommendation, I would go with like open awareness probably. Seems like the easiest one there. And yeah, dream journal, all the regular stuff. Reality checks, dream journal, meditation, wake back to bed if you want to do that too. That's a good one to throw in there. And yeah, that's it. So I guess what you can do is maybe let me know what your current lucid dreaming practice is, and I can kind of try to give you more pointers after that. Anyway, I rambled totally on way too long with that, so we'll end it there. Thanks for the comment, and until the next video, keep your lucid dreaming practice legit. Something else just popped into my head. If what you meant by lucid dreaming skill would be just the act of getting lucid and not necessarily trying to do something specific within your lucid dream, whether that be whatever it is I said in the video, like practicing walking through walls or flying or teleporting or trying to change the dream environment or get a specific dream character to show up. If what you meant was simply just the act of getting lucid, then I definitely do think that is a skill that kind of can just like feed back onto itself and become this positive feedback loop. Or at least that seems to be how it works for me, where if I can string together a couple nights in a row of lucid dreaming, it's like my mind gets trained on how to find that particular perspective or point of view, and then it becomes a lot more likely for me to follow it up with another lucid dream and another lucid dream, where sometimes I'll go through like these lucid dreaming dry spells, which for me could be like a month, 2 months sometimes with nothing. And then if I just have this one random lucid dream and I can follow it up within a couple days with another one, that's when I can really get on one of these rolls and, sometimes have like 4 or 5 nights a week lucid dreaming like every single night off of that. And it can really get cracking. But anyway, yeah, lucid dreaming to me is a skill. Something I like to say for many years is lucid dreaming is a skill that can be like learned, practiced, and improved upon. But anyway, yeah, we'll leave it with that. Thanks for the question. Peace.